You are watching Biggie on Sport. We say what they won't say.
SAFA had a dispute with the sponsor, Hollywood Bets. So Hollywood Bets wanted to halt the sponsorship because of mismanagement of funds.
It looks like also the problems there are not only affecting Banyana Banyana. As a federation, SAFA, I think, in fact, they need to take accountability.
When I went to cover that match, I couldn't even do a post-match interview because they had to travel by bus from Eastern Cape to Soweto.
He said, how much is this guy earning? They said he gets 100,000. Then he said he gets 100,000 to count yellow cards and red cards.
And, we have editors that also don't, unfortunately, we have editors that also don't believe in women.
Do we have rugby female teams in South Africa? And if we do, which divisions? Where are they playing their trades and stuff like that? Another brilliant day, another exciting day as we look forward to one of your best days being a weekend where we know that we will be crisscrossing the country, engaging with the world, especially not just the world, but in the world of sport. I'm Chris Kope, aka Biggie on Sport. Welcome to another informative episode of your interesting platform where we take a look at various sporting codes. I've always maintained on this platform that this is the only platform that we give and create platform for people who are making it and taking it upon themselves in making sure that they put others on the pedestal, in making sure that they showcase their talent as well as their potential. These are people most of the time are working behind the scenes. They're working behind the scenes in making sure that they achieve all those objectives. And unfortunately, these are some of the people who never got the opportunity of being profiled, if not given the space and being engaged, being spoken to in as far as their work is concerned. My guest is no different on this episode, although in fact she is the sports reporter for the public broadcaster. She is joining us to speak to us about her career as a woman in the field of sport and also look at sport holistically concerning rugby, football, etc., etc. Without any waste of time, Mphumi, welcome to Biggie on Sport.
Thank you so much, Biggie. Thank you for having me. I acknowledge the call-up. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered while sitting at home through your radio, listening in Limpopo, Northwest, and then you just hear from your radio that there's a big football match taking place between Kaizer Chiefs or Orlando Pirates for that matter. We call it a derby as always. And you just hear a voice, maybe in Setswana, a person doing commentary. Imagine. Did it ever cross your mind that who are these people? How do they get it right? Because obviously you need to be articulate. But above all, there are also sports presenters who are making sure that they keep us posted on daily basis about what's happening within the sporting world. And I guess today's episode, we're going to hear more about such people because we need to strike a difference between a sports commentary as well as a sports reporter or sports presenter. I hope, Mphumi, you're going to be helping us to interrogate all those issues and also delve in details as to what is the difference. But give us your brief background. Who is Mphumi?
Mphumi Manyisi is a multimedia reporter and a journalist, pro-journalist, currently working for SABC Sport within the research and editorial department. So basically in our department, we're the ones that make sure that your presenters look and sound smart. We feed them with the information that they need, and we feed the commentators as well with the information that they need. So basically my job is to make sure that all the radio stations at the SABC are informed when it comes to the latest updates in sport. Particularly in my beat is mainly women in sport or women's sport. So I'll be the one that covers your Banyana, your Proteas women, your box women, and all other sporting codes whereby women are trending and breaking barriers and are doing amazing things. Something on top of my head right now that I can think of is Khutaso Munjane winning the recent French Open thingy. Doubles being the main champion. So things like that. I make sure that I send out all the updates with regards to that. Not only limited to football, like I've mentioned, different sporting codes. It could be swimming. It could be ushering. It could be what other sporting codes? Obviously, cricket, rugby, which are the main known sporting codes. And other sporting codes that people don't know much about. Your gymnastics, your race walking, and all of that in between. So I make sure that I do my research and send out the packages. Yes, we also do have a research department that focuses mainly on research. But we work hand in hand as journals in the research department because obviously we get the exclusives and they share general information that's already out there, just packaging it nicely for the commentators and the presenters to use. So that's basically what I do. So I've studied media practices at Boston Media.
Okay.
So I'm a qualified journal. I majored in journalism. And what else am I forgetting about myself? Multi-award winning. I've won about 6 awards in the space. And that's it.
And how did it come about, in fact? Is this something that you've always wanted to do or embark on?
That's a very interesting question because I've growing up in a township, you never hear a lot about. That's why I advocate for career guidance. I didn't hear much about journalism. I didn't know that there's a specific career which is journalism, and that can also be professional. Yes, we grew up watching TV and listening to radio, but you would not know that there are people behind the scenes that make sure that the presenters have the packages that they need to speak about whatever it is that they're speaking about on the traditional platforms, which is radio, TV, and print. I only learned that at a later stage, mainly because I wanted to be on radio. I did audition. I mainly wanted to be a radio presenter.
Okay.
And there were not much opportunities at the time. And obviously, think about it this way: when you listen to radio, every slot has a presenter, right? And if you want to get in there, who must leave? So
True to that.
I would think about that, saying I want to do what they're doing, but does it mean that they should go and I should come in? So which other way can I use to sort of get into the space? So one time around my area, there were auditions for a sports presenter. I didn't even know there was something as sports. Okay, I knew about sports presenters, but I didn't know it was a thing. So I was like, maybe I should go and try and see how it goes. If I get the gig, then it means I am very much close to getting a radio gig officially as a presenter. Funny enough, I got the gig and I started presenting sports at Josie FM.
Wow.
And then I fell in love with the art.
Okay.
And I did it at the time where there was a huge hype around sports.
Okay.
Around 2010, there was like a super hype around sport. And, I think the the space was taken seriously because of because of the World Cup. And it was not just me coming in who wanted to refine that art of being a journalist, but it was journalists who were already also in the space that wanted to stand out because the world, all eyes were on South Africa, and the world was looking upon us in terms of how we
going to host
on the World Cup. And fast forward, I don't think I did great because I was starting out. I actually think I was terrible.
But there's always the first time.
Yeah, I
there's
then
always
decided
the first time.
to take it a notch up, and I went to Boston Media. In Boston Media, that's where I got to understand better about presenting. I mainly went there for radio, and I got in there and I got fully introduced to journalism. And I was just like, actually, I'm not even a radio presenter. I'm a writer at heart. I'm a storyteller at heart. I've produced many shows just by choosing journalism as my major. Shows I can think of at the top of my head. I was part of the morning show ETV as a producer. I produced Nimrod Nkosi's Late Night with Nimrod Nkosi. I don't know if you guys still remember that show. And I produced a sports show with Dr. Kumalo as well, which I executive produced. Like I literally started it from the scratch. So I've done a lot of great things. I'd like to think now that I'm thinking about it in hindsight, because I don't sit and think about the things I've done. So it's moments like these that give me a moment to reflect. And only then I realized that I've actually done a lot of things in the space, and I've contributed, and rightfully so, because I chose the industry, and I chose it because I love it and I'm passionate about it, and I wanted to contribute. And just looking at the work that I've done, I feel like I've done fairly well.
You mentioned that you were interested in becoming a radio presenter, and taking into account that radio has pockets of opportunities. You can work behind the scenes, you can work in programming, maybe doing a music show, etc. What were your interests in radio?
I wanted to present because that's the only thing I knew about. And that's why I don't mind spending time with young people, either in high school or primary, to enlighten them that it's not, if you want to get into the media space, it's not always about being the face. Just looking at your crew right now, there's many people behind the scenes, and they all play an important role to make sure that the show becomes a success. But people don't know that because they only see your face, and they think that you're the only person that's anchoring the show. But there are people who are holding you up to make sure that the show becomes a success. And I don't blame people for having that perspective because they don't know. So it's up to us to actually educate, go back to our colleges. I'd go to Boston Media once in a while and to speak to the students, and my high school once in a while, to say, mainly because this is the space, this is a sphere I've been in the longest time. At least I have better insights to share, with regards to the space. So I always tell people it's not always about being the face. We've got editors, we've got writers, we've got researchers, we've got directors, we've got videographers, we've got content creators, which are emerging now. Technical producers, camera guys, the DOPs, and so forth. So it's we have to educate people so that they know that actually the cake is big, and it's big enough for all of us. You just need to find your little corner there and excel in that space.
You are watching Biggie on Sport. We say what they won't say. And one of the most important things I always reiterate on this platform is that the reason why we bring people like Mphumi on this platform is to educate and inspire to those who are aspiring to venture into different careers, especially careers such as the one we're discussing here. And it doesn't matter where you're coming from.
Mphumi Mtana Sekas. I'm from Jabavu, White City. Soweto. That's where I grew up. Shout out to my grandma who housed us.
Okay.
So yeah, I grew up with my cousins.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. Siblings in Ningakeka?
C3.
C3.
I'm the only girl.
You're the only girl. It doesn't matter the circumstances, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you put your eyes on it, yeah, they say if you can dream it, you can achieve it. How challenging is your job at SABC?
I think just as a follow-up to what you've just mentioned now, you know, every time I encounter challenges, I look back at our boardroom meetings and look at the caliber of people that I work with.
Yeah.
I work with award-winning journals. I work with award-winning writers, you know, experienced editors who've been in the space for over 2 decades and so.
Yeah.
And so forth. So whenever I go through challenges, I remember that I'm just a simple girl from Soweto.
Yes.
You know, I shouldn't be hard on myself because I wasn't supposed to be in the space to begin with, considering my circumstances. For the mere fact that I've managed to maneuver, get myself an education, and get to a space where I get to work as a journal and do what I love, it's an achievement on its own.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Every time when I encounter challenges, I just reflect on that. But to specifically answer regarding the challenges that I face on a daily as a journal, I think the biggest one is just being a woman in the space because it's a male-dominated field.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a male-dominated field, and we have editors that also don't. Unfortunately, we have editors that also don't believe in women. So you constantly have to prove yourself that you can write, you can break the stories, and you know what you're doing. You understand the game. You're not just You're not just in the space. This is a pretty face, but. You have the brains that are backing your work up. So that's our biggest challenge. Even when they recommend people to be at the forefront to do things, you would know as a woman that you are going to be a by the way situation, you know. So we've fought to put our names out there and to become credible sources in the space.
I'm interested in the transition. Remember, we said we are inspiring and educating. And a lot of these young kids, both boys and girls, whenever they see Mphumi and Mpumi's face being beamed on the screen, I beg yours, they think it is as easy as they can see it.
Yeah.
But there's been a transition. You said you've been with Josie FM. You moved from Josie, which is a community radio station in Soweto, and up you went to a public broadcaster.
Yes.
How easy, how difficult?
It was a long journey. It was a long journey, and maybe it's just for me, and it's just my story to always make me look back and say, considering where I come from, there's no way I can give up now. Yes, to other people, it will be a transition of community radio, from community radio, then boom, national broadcaster. But for me, it has been a long journey. I've worked for so many companies. I've worked for Josie FM. I've done ETV Morning Show. I've done Far Post. I was the only female writer at Far Post.
Far Post, the football online platform.
And that's where I've won most of my awards there, because it was a groundbreaking thing that a newsroom full of men, there's this woman that's breaking news and showing up and writing well and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Mphumi, football or sport in general, it's now becoming too analytical. There's so much analysis that goes with football. Does that mean a lot has been taken away from journalists themselves?
I don't know if I'm going to answer.
Because we do have people now who are professionally analyzing, be it football, be it rugby and stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to answer this question correctly.
Yeah.
But we have a situation now that we've moved into multimedia space.
Okay.
And we have me answering this question out, I just want to also give an awareness in terms of the challenges that we face as journals.
Okay.
We're in a space where our industry is not respected at all. Anybody can wake up and want to be a journal. You see the trends on social media.
Exactly.
Where somebody wants to weigh in. I'll make an example regarding the SAFA seating, the Parliament SAFA seating.
The portfolio committee
the portfolio
on Tuesday.
committee,
Yeah.
100%. Everybody has an opinion about what happened on the day,
Okay.
right? And experts who understand. I have news for days with regards to what's happening at SAFA.
At SAFA.
You know, but if I didn't respect the craft, it would be easy to jump on social media and say, oh, by the way, I also know this about SAFA, you know. But people that are talking, it's people that actually have no idea.
No afraid, they're not afraid to the internal happenings.
What's happening at SAFA, you know, which brings me to this, I digress, but it links to what you've just asked me.
Okay.
Banyana is preparing to defend
the WAFCON in Morocco.
Yes, the title, the Women's Africa Cup of Nations title. A lot of people are saying they're not convinced in terms of how they have been building up towards defending the championship. And my response to that, because I interact with the ladies all the time and I've got a good relationship with most Banyana players, I know the things that are affecting the ladies every time they go to perform in big stages and perform in major tournaments, you know. And most of the stuff has to do with the federation, SAFA, in terms of their backing. We've got injuries that are not attended to. They get to prepare in stadiums that are not world class. You can't be preparing for a World Cup and be playing at UJ Stadium or at Zakane Stadium and all of that stuff. That's just the glimpse of what's happening behind the scenes. And I always say, so those are the things that would make you who are looking on the outside to say they're actually not prepared to defend their title, you know. So there's a lot that's happening behind the scenes that's affecting the performance on the field. But on the contrary, what I like is that these ladies, you can't judge them in terms of their build-up or preparations to major tournaments, and they've proven it. They've proven it at the Olympics, they've proven it at the World Cup, been knocked out in the last 16, and they've proven it in the previous Women's Africa Cup of Nations, you know, winning the championship.
They're the champions, yeah.
If you observe in terms of how they've built up towards all those accolades, it has been extremely challenging. So it's almost like they've got this thing of switching up whenever there's a big task ahead. So in as much as they haven't been preparing well and a lot of things have been happening behind the scenes, I trust them that they always have a motivator whenever they get to play on big stages, you know. So it links up to all of that there's certain dynamics that you need to understand when it comes to football analysis, things that we don't see on TV that happens outside, you know. And that allows us, that's what's keeping us excelling in what we're doing, because in as much as everybody is a journalist and everybody has something to say on social media, when you come in as a credible source, it will always set you apart and keep your work intact because you know better.
It looks like we are in no end in as far as SAFA's problems are concerned, because it looks like also the problems there are not only affecting Banyana. As a federation, SAFA, I think, in fact, they need to take accountability. We heard of Amajita, under-20 coach, whereby, in fact, there are salary disparities between the senior coach, Hugo Bruce, as well as the coach of Amajita, Raymond Mdaga, who has actually brought a silverware. Whereas we have a senior team that has never brought a silverware, but you have a coach who's sitting on a salary mark of about R1 million. I'm just making examples. SAFA have been hauled before the Parliament Sports Portfolio Committee in Parliament to address some of those issues. We have also learned about Amajita having to travel by bus from South Africa to Mozambique.
These are things we've known.
These
are things we've known for the longest time.
And many people only discovered on Tuesday that Amajita traveled by bus, traveling from here to Mozambique. At some stage, one SAFA manager went to attend an Amajita game, and when he got there, they did not have food. While he tried to swipe the credit card also. Those are some of the things. What should be done, Mphumi? What should be done? I mean, this is in the opening.
You know what should be done.
Yeah, this is in the opening. This is in the opening. Something has to be done, really. Something has to be done with the federation. But we'll move out of that, Mphumi, and focus on female football in South Africa. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a competitive football in as far as female players are concerned. Hence, you find that Banyana sometimes are struggling when they come up against well-established countries like your Germany, your USA, your Britain, etc., etc. It's because I've learned that there's only 4 teams within the PSL. It's Legisteria's Galaxy and about the 3 others who are competitive within the auspices of the Bedway Premier League. Where else we need such competitive leagues in South Africa so that we can be at par with the rest of the world.
I don't know who sponsors the show, but I just want to give a shout out to Hollywood Bets for sponsoring the Hollywood Bet Super League. You know, the patience, there's so much that's been happening. If you had noticed, the league had stop and goes at the beginning, whereby certain games were postponed and that sort of stuff. So what was happening behind the scenes, SAFA had a dispute with the sponsor, Hollywood Bets. So Hollywood Bets wanted to halt the sponsorship because of mismanagement of funds. That's because
from the federation.
Oh
my God.
They were not paying the subsidies for the teams, and you know women's football is struggling in South Africa, and we don't need those issues. There's one time where I went to cover a match between, I remember between UJ and Thunderbirds who were recently relegated. And I can tell you why they were relegated. When I went to cover that match, I couldn't even do a post-match interview because they had to travel by bus from Eastern Cape to Soweto. Right after, at the end of the game, they had to travel back
to the Eastern Cape.
Same way. So there's no luxury of flying, you know, hotels and all of that stuff, which we see when you look at the men's game or compare to the PSL, you know. So it's things like that that are holding us back. That team, as we speak, was relegated. Do they not know how to play football? Do they not have good players? That's a team that produced many Banyana players. That's a team that has produced TUT players, you know. So there's no way there's no talent. That's a team that has produced Super Falcons players, where the first Banyana team in 1993 emerged from that team. So how is it that the team is not good? So they're relegated because matters of resources and financial challenges and all of that stuff. So that's why SAFA had to
get his house in order.
110%. You know, there's a lot that's happening with regards to Bafana even. There's a lot that's happening with regards to Amachita. And I don't even want to touch the women's game. It's suffering the most because with the Hollywood Bet Super League, there was a time where the reason they didn't get the subsidies, the team subsidies, is because SAFA was funding CHEN, the CHEN program for Bafana, which is a problem. So those are things that we need to work on, you know, to respect the women's game if we want to see more. If the ladies can go to the World Cup and be knocked out in the top 16. And if the ladies can win the Women's Africa Cup of Nations without getting the equivalent support that they deserve, if they actually do get the support that they deserve, what can they do?
What can they do? Good question, indeed. Still on Banyana, they've been on the Tri-Nations preparing for defending, as you mentioned, the WAFCON, in fact, and they are now about to jet off to Morocco, a tournament which will commence from the 5th to the 26th of July, I suppose. And obviously, they're looking forward to defend their title. Are we ready from your analysis? Are they ready? Taking into account that Desiree Ellis has actually selected 46 players, which are going to be cut down to 21, I think in 2 days' time, obviously. But do you think, are we ready, having retained also some of the key senior players within the side?
The preparation has been done in batches. Des started with the youthful squad. Those are the ones who are playing in the Lesotho friendlies.
Lesotho, yeah.
And then she switched things up, integrated, in fact, moved to honoring the players that she knew that they were not going to be part of this year's WAFCON.
Okay.
Obviously, Nompumelelo Nyandeni as well as Noko Matlou, specifically on Noko Matlou because Noko Matlou is very experienced and has played a major role in making sure that Banyana achieve all the accolades that they've achieved in recent time, right? And moving from that, she then moved from that to integrating players that have been sidelined because of injuries, but they come in with experience. That's why we've seen the return of Refilwe Jane, we've seen the return of Siposini has always been there, the return of Bambanani Mbani, the one that plays for Mamelodi Sundowns. And obviously that just tells you how dynamic this team is and the depth that we have.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak much about if I'm impressed or not with how they've run the preparations as far as SAFA is concerned, but I know for a fact that we are going to depend on individual brilliance to make sure that we retain the title. Do we have the capacity? Yes, we do have the capacity. When you look at players like Hilda Makaya, you look at the players like Jermaine Siposini, Linda Mutlalo, Aman Kamete, Refilwe Jane coming in, retaining her armband as well, just to lead the team. I think we do have the capacity. Those girls will get in that stage and will switch up and show us something we've never seen before. And that's the nature of Banyana. They thrive in big stages and they thrive under pressure.
As we're about to depart from Banyana subject, there was not a brouhaha per se, but an outcry whereby coach was actually brought under criticism in as far as goalkeeping department is concerned. People lamenting on her being actually overlooking Dlamini over the current goalkeeper. In fact, you think this was a fair criticism?
And, can I just answer this way?
Yes.
Answer that this way.
Yeah.
We have a goalkeeping challenge in South Africa in general.
Irrespective of female or you're right. I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's why we don't have many goalkeepers playing their trades
within different divisions.
Overseas, I see that. You know. But with regards to the Andile and Kellen Swart debate, I don't want to get into that. But what I want to commend Desiree Ellis on is giving the young goalkeepers an opportunity. We're seeing the rise of Jessica Williams. We're seeing the rise of Casey Gordon, who has been groomed by JVW Academy, obviously from JVW Academy to the senior team. And to now Banyana, and we've seen what she did in COSAFA. So just paying attention to the goalkeeping department, even in the Hollywood Super League, we struggle with goalkeepers. That's why you'd see they would score 10-0. Like, how normal is that? It's because obviously we have issues in defense and we have issues when it comes to the goalkeeping department, and we need more goalkeeper coaches. So instead of having a Kalen Swart and an Andile Dlamini discussion, let's have more goalkeepers coming in so that it becomes a vast debate in terms of, I think Casey Gordon deserves a call-up. I think Jessica Williams deserves a call-up. And so it gives us something to talk about.
Brilliant. I hear you. You're very, I like your analytical acumen as well as your observations in as far as football is concerned. And the more we converse, in fact, you are digging something out of me so that we can share, and also with our viewers at home. Sundowns are coming out of the CAF Champions League.
Yeah.
And they have been trying their best, in fact, to get the second star in as far as that continental competition is concerned. They were booted out by Esperance in the semi-finals with the same coach coaching Sundowns currently, obviously Miguel Cardoso. And then with the hope that because of his abilities and capabilities, he might take Sundowns to the promised land. And there it is, they bowed out. And once again, there's an outcry that, because obviously many of us, we become, we call them potato couches, coaches. Potato couch coaches. Yeah, we talk, we analyze and stuff like that. There's an outcry that had it been that Zwane was in the field, we would be talking a different story. Are you of the same view? To equal the same sentiments?
First of all, I don't like engaging on PSL stuff. Okay. Mainly because I cover women's football.
Okay.
But because I'm a journalist, once in a while I'll get involved in those discussions, conversations.
Okay.
Themba Zwane not being fielded in that particular game. I think, yes, we needed his experience.
Okay.
First of all, if you're not going to play Zwane, why is he in your squad? Why are you traveling with him?
Okay.
And if you don't believe in what he can offer, why is he part of the squad to begin with? And what are you telling him as a player? You know what I mean? And it didn't. And he said he knew what he was doing, because journalists were asking him that, will Themba Zwane play? And he said he doesn't offer what he wants. And he explained it whichever way he explained it. Okay, cool. Make up your mind. If he doesn't offer what you want, he should not be in your squad to begin with. You know? And things did not go his way. He did not win the championship. So now the question is, Rulani left because he didn't win the same championship.
Exactly.
Does it mean now they need to let go of the coach for the very same reason? Just because you didn't play Themba Zwane, you could have just played him, even if for 40 minutes or 30 minutes.
Take a chance.
Just to say, okay, he was there, you know. Yeah. But for making him sit there for a whole 90 minutes, seeing that the team is losing and you need someone who can put in pressure in your attack, and he is there with the experience that he carries, and you don't play him, it's almost like you got what you wanted. So you can't cry. The only thing that you need to do now is to make sure that you work on the team morale and focus on the Club World Cup.
I know you just warned us that you don't want, in fact, to get or venture into terrains of the PSL. But do you think it actually augurs well in terms of our football pedigree as well as our football reputation? To see that teams that needs to be promoted from the Motsepe Foundation Championship, it has to go via the boardroom all the time, season in, season out. We have seen just now with the Devon Stars, their matter had to be determined or decided, or their fate had to be determined in the boardroom, with JDR Stars and Cape Town City having lodged a complaint about a player believed to have been improperly registered. But do you think this is, I need your general, in fact, view on this one. Do you think this is how things should go? Because this actually, it dampens the reputation of the brand, which is PSL itself, and the sponsors as well are brought into question here, in fact. What's your take on that?
I'm not surprised, because it happens season in, season out.
Exactly.
And I can tell you why. It's because when it comes to the APC Motsepe League, when it comes to the Motsepe Foundation,
yes.
That I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like the PSL executives are not paying much attention in terms of the movements that are happening down there. And if you don't pay attention, don't want to pay attention at the end of the season, yes, it's bound to start
at the bottom.
No, it's bound to go to the courtrooms. It is bound to go to the courtrooms because the leagues were neglected all this time. So we don't know what's been happening. We know there's issues of refereeing, there's issues of fielding players, all of that stuff. And if we don't pay attention to that, even from at the beginning of the season, we can't come and expect magic at the end of the season. So it's bound to happen every season until such a time where the PSL executive decide to pay attention in these two leagues. And I mean, I can also just imagine if Motsepe wasn't there, what would be happening down there? Because we're also speaking about issues of sponsorships as well. And issues of SAFA, then again, as a mother body paying attention to those leagues, it's another issue.
It emerges
what I
again.
mean? So I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised. Well, as I've always said, it is being on sport. We say what they want to say. And my guest here, we are talking about football holistically, policies, governance, and players themselves as well. And talking about the players, I'm talking about the team in Motsepe Foundation Championship. We have Orbit College as well as Keswick Stars who are to play. Finally, this matter has been settled. And the fixtures are out for that is PSL promotion between Orbit and Keswick Stars. They will be playing either, that is Cape Town Spurs and this other team as well. Your take on that?
I just hope for. In fact, I'm not happy with what happened with Cape Town Spurs. We didn't expect that.
Exactly.
When you look at the Cape Town teams, those are the teams that gave us stars that have represented us
in the national team.
On global stage. I see the national team on global stages. Even when you look at guys like Tulani Serero. So for them to go down like that, for me, it's questionable in terms of what is really happening in that side of South Africa as far as football is concerned. So I'd want to see them, showing up in these playoffs.
Cape Town Spurs. And apparently there's a young player there called Bartman, and a lot of people are knocking on the door of Cape Town Spurs, are looking for that boy. And I watch him playing. He's one of the prolific players, I think, and future prospects for Bafana Bafana.
100%.
Let's move out of this. Let's turn attention now to Bafana Bafana. Bafana Bafana also are playing. They played yesterday in Polokwane. This is one of the two friendlies that they were playing in preparation as a build-up to the AFCON as well. And then beyond that, it is the World Cup, obviously. But talking about the World Cup, it looks like we are on a tenterhook, if not actually gliding on a thin ice in as far as the issue at hand of Teboho Mokoena of Sundowns. It looks like somebody took his eyes off the ball when we beat Lesotho in a 2-0 victory, whereby he wasn't supposed to have been fielded in that particular game. And apparently we are waiting for an outcome or a ruling from FIFA in as far as whether Siaya a World Cup or Asina.
Where is it taking us back?
Come again?
Where is it taking us back? It's taking us back to SAFA.
I know.
Yes. So there's an official who's supposed to make sure that all cards are counted or updated in terms of where the player stands.
I like one politician, sorry to interject. He said, how much is this guy earning? They said he gets 100,000. Then he said he gets 100,000 to count yellow cards and red cards.
So SAFA must just come out and speak about it. And it's said that they don't, I don't know if they're protecting the official or they don't want to give too much because they know it's a sensitive issue. But they need to be honest about what really happened. Because it's one thing to not qualify because you didn't play well, and it's another to not qualify because things were not done right
I wouldn't have said it better. I don't want us to focus more on SAFA, talking about SAFA and stuff like that, but maybe give us hope. because you're close to all this, or perhaps privy to all of this happenings. What are our chances going forward? In as far as this matter is concerned. No.
I mean, Bafana.
Bafana with the horse issue. What are our chances? What do you think maybe SAFA would say, or what's going to happen?
I think the complaint was lodged late.
Okay.
So they're dependent on that specifically to say, because the complaint was lodged late, there are chances that Bafana can go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just dependent on that, and we're hoping for the best, because right now there's absolutely nothing Hugo Bros can do about that.
Yeah.
It's a matter of waiting for the right time and hear the verdict.
Do we have rugby female teams in South Africa? And if we do, which divisions? Where are they playing their trades and stuff like that? And how popular are they? And if they're not popular, what needs to be done to popularize the sport itself?
South African rugby has done exceptionally well in terms of grooming women in rugby and making sure that they flourish in terms of talent and otherwise. I think the one team that's on top of my head is the Blue Daisies. The Blue Daisies is a professional rugby team in the women's Premier Division. That's the only professional team. And other teams are working on following suit. So the players are getting paid almost equally as the men's teams.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why you'd find out that the national team, the women's national team, is mostly placed with players from Blue Daisies. And currently they are out in Madagascar to defend their championship, the African Championship, and they want to use that championship to prepare for the World Cup, which is happening later this year. So yeah, in terms of rugby, I think there's movements in terms of making sure that women's sport gets the recognition and it gets the attention that it deserves. Not only when it comes to high performance, but also matters of pay gap as well. So those things are addressed a lot, which is what puts them ahead ahead of other sporting codes like football, because you'd find that that whole sports indabas where they get to speak about these things, and players get to mention the challenges that they are facing. So they're given that platform to speak about the things that they would like to see transformation in. And that's why they have departments where they focus mainly on equity, inclusion, and transformation.
Let's go back to your office, as we are just under 7 minutes. So obviously, there are other women behind closed doors who are doing a number of other chores, if not beats. Because journalistically speaking, we call them beats, obviously. What are other beats that you can perhaps share with the viewers and identify if there's a young girl listening or watching out there?
Oh, you mean career opportunities in journalism? There's so many. There's absolutely so many. One, I think when you go study media practices, one thing you need to pay attention at is a special major that will cover other sectors in media. And I think journalism is that. If you study journalism, it's easy for you to work in radio as a producer. It's easy for you to work in print as a writer. It's easy for you to work as a content strategist. And it's also easy for you to work as a presenter, because it's a plus, knowing that you have a journalistic brain, but also you can also present. It makes you look much better and a step ahead compared to other presenters. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do. You can be a DOP, you can be a director. What else? What am I forgetting? Yeah, there's literally so much you can do.
Do you have programs like on-job shadowing, maybe for young and aspirant broadcasters, maybe at SABC?
Do we have that
Leaderships,
program?
perhaps, or leaderships?
Yeah, there's always leaderships
Okay.
and internships,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we have like a specific program
Okay.
that's dedicated to mentoring upcoming journals.
Okay.
You know, it's almost like if you've gone to school and then there's an opportunity for you to be an intern. Those are just always there every year. But I'm not sure about having a specific program that mentors young people in media. We try and do that in our personal capacities to sort of speak to young people who are looking for guidance with regards to what we are doing. So we always are sharing that information and are open to doing that even on social media. We try and bridge that gap.
And commentary for football, rugby, cricket, are we doing enough in that space whereby we are producing more women, or perhaps there's still room for improvement going forward?
There's a long way to go. How many female commentators do you know? Maybe less than 5.
Yeah.
That's not enough in South Africa. South Africa has more than 67 million people living in SA, and to have about less than 5 female commentators, either in football or in fact, when I think cricket, I still think Kes Naidu.
Kes Naidu, yeah, she's the only one, yeah.
Yeah, she's not the only one, but for the mere fact that you and I can think of just Kes Naidu, it shows that there's a long way to go to also have emerging young people coming into the space, you know. So we've got a long way to go, but we need to be intentional about it. It shouldn't be a by the way conversation. It should be a holistic conversation that includes transformation, that includes equity and inclusion.
Why you say it's going to be a long way to go? Maybe what needs to be done?
We have many challenges in that space, you know, as females, because mainly it's a male-dominated industry.
It is still looked at a male-dominated space.
And when they look at you, it's a matter of, does she know what she's talking about?
Okay.
You always have to prove that you're not just commentating football, but you understand the game and you understand what's happening. You know, it's not something that you're reading through, but it's something that you know. So if we get to always prove that we actually can do this thing, it goes to show that we still have a long way to go for our male counterparts to trust us on the job.
At least we have exported one commentator to the UK, I think a BBC Sport. From SuperSport,
yes,
Roberts, she's doing incredibly well,
plus Julia as well.
Julia,
It's good to see them, you know, flying the South African flag high, and we trust them. We know that it's not just Julia. There's another lady, I actually forgot her name, but they're very close friends. But they used to work for Sokala Duma. We trust them. We know when we see their faces, it's not just pretty faces on TV. It's ladies who truly understand the game. And the work that they put in. You know, the work that we put in for a 1-hour show is crazy. It's a lot because it's days of research to just unpack a game. It's days and days of research. And Nati, as women, it's upon us to make sure that when we get those opportunities, we truly show up.
I'm about to let you go as we're about to wrap up the show. And please speak to your camera and share your socials where you can be contacted if there's any young person. But above all, maybe speak to the young ones out there and please identify those pockets of spaces in as far as opportunities are concerned, as careers, what is available out there, be it television or be it radio, just speak to them.
I don't know, you know, what's my advice to youngsters or emerging young people in media? People who want to be media specialists. Guys, it's not always about the fame. it's not always about being known. It's about the work.
The work, the passion.
And then the attention follows. And even as it follows, you need to know how to handle that. You also need to remember that it's about the work. It's about the work that you put out there. Your work needs to be credible. And it's about sleepless nights. We don't sleep. We watch games in the evenings. If you're covering basketball, you'd understand what I'm talking about. You'll have to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch the NBA, to report on that. You know what I mean? So we have sleepless nights. So it's not as glamorous as it looks. You know, the fights in newsrooms, the fights in productions, you know, to get that fine product out there that you see as a perfect thing that you want to do, you know. So you need to remember that it's never about glitz and glam. And a journalist is not a celebrity, that you also need to remember. A journalist is a storyteller. So when we're now starting to see journals that are becoming celebrities, that's where we're starting to derail from the actual job. That's why the news is no longer credible, because we want to trend. We quickly want to break stories. There's many stories, there's many shenanigans I have for days. People who call me and give me scoops for days. But I need to analyze, is it worth going out? When people come and confide, give me, do I now need to rush and put it out there so that it trends for a day and then our relationship it breaks because I decided, you know, to write that story? So those are the things you think about as a journalist. That's why I say it's about the work. And the work is also about respecting your sources as well.
Okay. In 5 years' time, before Uzagoma Socials, it just pop up now. In 5 years' time, Mphumi, Sombona Agupi.
I want to be an executive producer. I'm a storyteller. I want to create shows. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Production like these, this is the stuff that I want to run in the future. And I think I've paid my dues.
You paid your dues. Okay. If they'd like to learn more or hear more from you, what are your socials?
I don't know about learning or hearing more. Go to sapcsport.com. You'll find my articles there. Journals, podcast, it plays on Friday. You'd probably see my face once in a while doing analysis there. And otherwise on social media at Flex Mphumi. Okay.
Mphumi, once again, thank you so much for your time. And we hope this is not the last and the final conversation we have with you here or on the show, Biggie on Sport. And we're looking forward to engage with you and learn more from you as well.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, that's how we come to the end of it for today's episode, the Biggie on Sport. And I would like to thank my guest here. I guess, in fact, we were somehow empowered with a lot of information in as far as women or female sport is concerned. And yeah, thank you so much to the technical staff at Arise Studios, but above all, the guys behind the scenes, Jimmy Mashazi, Kabelo. Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget to like, share, but above all, to subscribe on our socials under Olive Branch Entertainment. Until then, sharp, sharp.